Amazing. We are live, folks. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. Just getting, here we go. Of all the talents, typing and talking elude me in many formats. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone's doing well. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Let us know where you're coming from in the chat. Hello, Texas. Welcome. Florida. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's doing good. We have a lot to cover today. Hello, BC. I hope everyone out in BC is doing okay. I don't know how many folks have been following up on news up the Canada way. We've had quite the bad weather out on our west coast and some flooding and landslides and you name it of a mess. So thinking about all of our folks out in the BC area right now. Hopefully everyone's staying safe. So hello, New Zealand. Good morning to you. Hello, Gatineau. India. Welcome, folks. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. You still have a few. So not to fret if you want to grab your last glass of water, your notebook, your pen, whatever you like. Please do take a moment. Don't rush. Let us know where you're coming from in the chat. Sit back and relax for a few minutes. It's not common for us to have that time. Take a breather. I have afternoon tea with me. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. Hawaii, Georgia area. Perfect. Wisconsin. Sorry, I'm just looking back on the chat, guys. Sudbury. Perfect. Make sure, folks, if you're just joining us, hello, Indiana. If you haven't, make sure your chat just gets changed over from host and panelist to everyone. This way we can all see your fantastic comments, the community building that going on. It's just a great part, and I want everyone to be able to be a part of it. So, hello, Denise. Welcome. 2 or 3 more minutes, folks. I know that, hello, Alberta. I know tons of you tend to flock in right at the 2 o'clock mark. Glad to have you here, Paula. Welcome. Here they come. Hello, Australia. Very cool. Portland, St. John's. I want to know, folks, who's got snow? I said the word. I know, the big S word. Never say that. Here in Canada, where I think areas have definitely been getting it. We're on the verge here in Toronto, I think. Hello, Boston, Wisconsin. Welcome, folks. Pickering. Glad to have you all here. 2 minutes, folks. We're going to get started right at 2 o'clock today. Lots happening for today. So I want to make sure that we get everything in. Oh, I think I saw. Hi, Stace. You got snowed yesterday, eh? Out your way. Illinois, no snow there yet. I'm sure it's all coming. I'm sure. Just right in time for the Christmassy season. I don't mind it. One more minute, folks. Excuse me. Ooh, pardon me, folks. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in 1 minute here. Please do take a moment to pop your chat over from host and panelist to everyone. This way we can all participate in the fantastic community we do have. Super glad you guys were able to make some time for us today. Be here, be a part of our community. It's a fantastic community, I won't lie. Hello, Maryland, folks down from Chicago, Dallas. My husband was actually on the phone here this morning with a couple of great folks down from Texas Way. Windsor, welcome, Freetown. Glad to have everyone joining us. Hello, Chicago. All right. I think, folks, here we are. I know tons of you like to join us right at the 2 o'clock. I know that tons of you are working on the floor, and this is the time you do join us. So let's get into the fun and exciting part of today. Let's get started. We have so much to cover today. Huge topic. I'm very excited to welcome our special guest in a few minutes. So let's get into the housekeeping pieces of today before we do get into the fun of everything and exactly why you're all here today. So let's start off with our disclaimer. As always, folks, I am not your face of legal or financial advice. No one here on our team is, and trust me, I am the last person you would seek that information from. Ideally, we want you taking away tips, tricks, techniques, things like that you can implement within your center, within your classrooms, wherever you are working. Just know you should probably consult with the right people before making any large changes, whether that be your licensing or legal representative or financial advisor. Just make sure you are contacting the right people and having further conversations before you do anything drastic, to say the least. So let's jump into our land acknowledgement. Quick listen here.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
Let's jump into our diversity and inclusion statement as well.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
Folks, if this is your first time joining us, you'll probably want to know a couple of these pieces. And also, if you've been with us before, it's not a bad thing to be reminded. We are recording our session. So as always, if you do have to leave, life happens. We hope you don't have to. We hope you are able to stay with us the full hour. But if you do, know that we are going to send out the recording as part of our show notes, and you'll be able to as well access it on our blog page as well. If you need the closed captions, please do utilize that for yourself. We're recording with that on as well. So just hit the CC tab and it should be all available there for you as well. For those who are in our live session today, you will be getting a certificate sent out to you. So please, please, please keep an eye on your inbox. If you find that it's not coming through, just give me a quick email. We'll hook you up. We also will be providing our template for those who are participating in our recorded session as well. Please note we have a change coming, so just hang tight with me for a sec here. If you're having any connection issues with Zoom, I really hope you're not. really, really hope you're not. But if you are, please do seek support.zoom.us. They are the best folks. They know their product the best. They can help you at the best, especially when it comes to connections, things like that. I always seek husband IT when I have any trouble. Otherwise, I restart everything. That's my go-to starts. So I mentioned a small change. Folks, this will be the last webinar in which we are able to provide you a template certificate with the recording. Moving forward after today's session, we will no longer be able to accommodate that for you. We are looking at aligning more in states and provinces across the board and being able to send out certificates accordingly. So those who are attending our live sessions moving forward will still be getting a certificate of participation, but we will not be offering up the certificate for those who are accessing the recording. Please do let us know if you have any questions. We're here to help. We're going to make sure as well that in our show notes email, so if you want a little bit more information, we do have that for you. So please don't be shy. If you've never heard of us before, where have you been? I'm just kidding. First of all, if you have never heard of us before, please do take some time to check us out. We'd love to have some conversation with you, whether you're working on the floor in the classroom, whether you're in the front office, doesn't matter what's going on. We'd love to have a conversation with you about how we can help you out within your center. Kaya just popped a link in the chat. Book some time with us. Talk to the fabulous people we have on our team. Absolutely wonderful people who want to work with you and learn how to work with you and make sure Hi Mama is a good fit for your location and what's going on. Know as well that as you do sign up with the Hi Mama family, if you're just looking for more resources, we have an amazing support team to help you out along the way. We're here to be there 100%, support you as your center changes and it grows, because nothing's going to stay the same. Everything's always changing. So as well, there's tons of free resources. Our podcasts, our blogs, our articles, our activities, you name it. There's so many amazing things happening. All of our webinars, I should mention, are all on our website. So please do take some time, check us out. If you've never been with us before, holy moly, where have you been? I'm just kidding. Once again, I'm Ria. I am one of the early childhood educators here on the Hi Mama team. There's so many of us. I'm also a community ambassador, as well as your host here at Hi Mama Helps. On the chat is my colleague Kaya. Kaya, get on here. I know we've had a lot on our social side of things. We've been doing our ECE spotlight. Any fun facts today before I jump into my fun fact?
Oh, geez. Fun facts. Actually, Shannon just asked in the chat if Hi Mama is hiring, and heck yes, we are hiring.
Yes.
We're hiring for so many different positions. We just released a super exciting special announcement. So head over to literally any social channel and to our blog to check out our super exciting announcement. I'll post it in the chat maybe at the end. But yes, we are hiring. I'll post that in the chat, and super excited for Ria's special announcement. I wonder what it could be.
Oh my goodness. So for those of you who've been with us for a very, very, very long time, I have a very special announcement. I'm really excited to announce that my husband and I are expecting, and I'm going to be going on maternity leave. So I'm not leaving, but I am leaving at the same time. I'm sure some of you who follow me on social media, you've probably seen this go out at some point, but we're really excited to be welcoming a little baby boy in January. So I can't get too emotional. I'm still here, don't worry. But with that said, I'm very excited to announce and bring on our new host of the Hi Mama Helps webinar series, Miss Maddie. Maddie, please do join us. She's going to be taking on my role. Maddie,
hello.
You're an educator as well, which is amazing. You're here on the Hi Mama team, but share a fun fact about yourself for the crew.
Yes, so hi everybody, my name's Maddie. As Ria said, I'm also an early childhood educator. I have my master's in the field as well. I am not a new face to Hi Mama, so some of you may have worked with me previously when I was back on the customer success team, but I am a new face to the webinar team, so I will now be the host. I know I have some very big shoes to fill while Ria is out, but I am very excited to be working with you all. And a fun fact about me is I am very obsessed with my dogs. I have a recent rescue. He's a Park Great Dane, we think. His name is Bodhi, and he hangs out beside me every day. So you might see him sometimes pop in the back of the webinars every now and then.
Maddie, I love it. Maddie's going to be on the chat, folks, with Kaya here today. So if you want to say hello to her, please do make her feel welcome. We'll be bringing her back later for a little bit more conversation too. So thanks a lot, Maddie. Glad to have you with us. Without further ado, our special guest for today, folks. Woohoo! I had a time set for myself. I wanted to make sure to give Valora as much time as possible from the CAYL, oh, I almost said that wrong 10 times fast, Institute. Please do welcome Dr. Valora Washington. Valora, before we dive in, I know there's been a lot happening here in the last 10 minutes for you, but share a fun fact about yourself.
Okay, a fun fact about myself is that I am so happy to have just recently moved to Ohio.
Ooh.
So Ohio, it's cold, right? But it's great. So thank you.
Valora, I'm going to let you take it over. Folks, she's got a jam-packed session that's going to be happening here. So Valora, I'm going to give it all over to you. I'll be here, of course, as well in the chat. So let's take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with Hi Mama. The CAYL Institute has been a partner with Hi Mama on a wide variety of events and activities. So it's really been a pleasure to us to work with everyone. So today I'm here to talk about the Alpha generation. The Alpha generation are those children that have been born since 2010. They are the first generation that is wholly born in the 21st century. And so as educators, knowing about this generation and what makes them unique is something really important for us to do as we think about educating them right now and also preparing them for their future. Now, what we know is this has been a very, very, very challenging time for young children who've spent a lot of their very young years, the past couple of years, dealing with pandemic conditions. And the rules have changed. The rules have changed for us as educators, just as the rules have changed for families and for children. So many rules are different, procedures are different, what children are experiencing is different. It's just been an unprecedented time, hopefully a once in a lifetime experience. So what I want to talk to you about today, my main goal is to talk to you about what I'm calling the 6 characteristics of this Alpha generation that we're working with. That's what I mainly want to share with you. And secondarily, I want to share with you things that we can do as we work with this Alpha generation once we understand what really makes them unique. But before we get into those 6 characteristics, I want to set the context a little bit about who we are and what we're going through as educators. So let's just think a little bit together about some of the things that are going on for us as we're all trying to create a new normal together, and what are some of the essentials that we should be thinking about as we create this context to work with the Alpha generation. So I'm going to just say that before we get started, I think it's a really good idea to realize that most of us have experienced some kind of loss during this pandemic period. I know that I have. It's been very challenging in so many different ways. For me, one of the biggest losses has been the loss of the opportunity to meet with people live and in person, because that's something that I really enjoy, meeting with people live and in person. And things are different. While we were closed, if your program did close, things were different. If you've reopened, things are different. And so we have to face this reality that there has been some loss. So I want to encourage all of you as we're going through this presentation to really write in the chat and share your experiences and share your thoughts about some of the things that I'm saying, because we're going to come back to that. We're going to have plenty of time for questions and answers. And we really want to be seeing what you're thinking and what in real time. So please participate in the chat. So since we can't participate in the regular way, I'm going to ask you right now to start with the chat just by writing in something that you're happy to leave behind with the pandemic behind us. In some ways, something that you're happy to leave behind. And as I've already said, for me, what I'm happy to leave behind, and I will be happy to leave behind, is the isolation of not really being able to be with our children, our families, our friends, our colleagues. And that's really important for me. I want to leave that isolation behind. So please write in the chat what you think, what you'd like to leave behind. At the same time, there are things that we want to pick up because we've all learned a lot during the pandemic, and it hasn't all been negative. And so what are some of the things that you've experienced over the past 2 years that you want to take forward as we now think about working with our children in the classroom? And just really would love for you to write in the chat some of the things that you'd like to take forward, something you learned during the pandemic, maybe a new skill. I know a lot of us have learned new technology skills, something that really is going to benefit you that you can take forward. So also, as part of the context, before we start thinking about who the Alpha generation is and how we can work with the Alpha generation, one of the things I want to say is how important it is in the context that we're living in to really bring hope and inspiration to the work that we're doing. I know this has been a challenging time, but I can tell you, I am still very inspired. I'm very inspired because I'm very proud of the work that we have done and the way that educators have shown up during this pandemic. So I'm really filled with optimism myself, and I hope that you are too. So as we welcome the Alpha generation, there are a lot of things that we need to think about. There are some essential things we need to think about, essential truths we need to acknowledge as we try to realize our vision of having a really strong background for each and every Alpha child. And I think there's basically 4 of these things that set the context for what we have learned over the past 2 years during this pandemic that we can really take forward as we think about who these Alpha children really are. And so I want to name the 4 of them. And I think one of the first things that we've come to grips more strongly about during the past 2 years is this idea that we are all early childhood educators. Whether you work in family childcare, a center, a school, whatever your context, that we are all early childhood educators, and that it's only through our unity that we're going to be able to make the progress that we need so that we can help and better educate and support young children. And so we know that in the past, there's been a lot of division between us based on where people work and this kind of thing. But we've got to move on from that and realize that if we're going to make progress, we have to acknowledge and identify ourselves as all early educators. And the second essential truth is, and it's we're thinking about the Alpha generation, you know, there's a lot of things different about this Alpha generation, but there are also very, very, very many solutions. There are lots of solutions that exist. I'm not a skeptic and I am not a cynic. I do not think that things can't change from the way they've always been. And so I think really bringing forth that knowledge that we have that solutions do exist. And yes, we acknowledge that there have been a lot of barriers in the past and many of those barriers that still exist. But we have to be willing on behalf of the Alpha generation to move beyond those barriers and really try to resolve some of these barriers. And we do it because it is absolutely the right thing that we must do for our children. So we're welcoming the Alpha generation, and a little bit more context. As we welcome this generation, we have to feel ourselves as a community, as a professional community, with several things. And the things that I think that we must feel ourselves with are really honor and respect for who we are and our profession, keeping a unifying focus on children, and bringing the courage, commitment, and compensation that change is going to require. And change is not an option. We're going to have to change, and we're going to need a lot of courage to make those changes. So I think respect for the early educator is something that we really need to promote within ourselves and in the outside world. You know, there's still people who think that when you work with young children, you're a babysitter, that anybody can do this job. Nothing could be further from the truth. And so one of the things that's happened during the pandemic is the national press has been talking about our work, that we're essential workers, that we're essential professionals. So our opportunity now is to turn those ideas about us being essential into a deeper level of respect and honor for the work that early childhood educators do. And so this gives me a chance to just pause briefly and just say thank you to all of you who've been out there working under these conditions. You really, truly deserve our accolades and respect and acknowledgement and recognition for everything that you have done over these past 2 years. All of you have shown so much personal courage, and a lot of personal courage when there has been an uncertain risk. I really appreciate you. And I know I speak for just thousands of families who really appreciate you too, because your resilience has really shown through. You've risen to the occasion in this very difficult, unknown circumstance. And I am so proud of how we as a profession have shown up under these difficult circumstances. So you are highly valued and appreciated. And I just want to stop and give you that recognition. Let's take a poll question real quickly. If you could answer the poll. How much honor and respect do you think is given to early childhood educators? You know, people are saying we're essential. Is that really turning up as honor and respect for us in our profession? What do you think? Could you just answer the poll question? And let's see where people are with that.
Laura, I just want to chime in for a minute. I think this is a very interesting question, and kind of to tie back to what you were saying about what the pandemic has brought a lot of light on this, and hopefully it's shed it in some good ways that we need changes to come. Changes need to happen in the same sort of way. And I think because of it, the pandemic has really shown us why. Mind you, I think we all kind of wish that a pandemic didn't need to happen for that to actually be the case in so many scenarios. But
absolutely,
we're showing about a 5. Everyone's saying about a medium right now in regards to yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what that really says is, and keep answering the question, but if people saying it's a 5, it means we have a long way to go, because we want to be at a 9 or a 10 in terms of the honor and respect that people are giving to our profession. I'm going to move on, Rhea, from this poll. If you could close it down. Thanks. So, Rhea, my slide's not moving.
Oh, no.
For some reason. Yes, I don't know why. There it goes.
There we go.
Gotcha.
Magic.
All right. It is so magic. I mean, we're all getting this technology thing all together. So in addition to honor and respect, I think another thing that we have to take forward is our unifying focus on children, putting children in the center of what needs to happen in their care, education, and development. Now, I don't have the subject matter today to really get into, from my perspective, how many things that have happened in the past couple of years that have not put children at the center. But what I am saying is that we need to be sure that we're always putting children at the center, that we're always asking, what does a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, what do they need? What do they need to be able to do? What do they need to learn? What do they need to know? What do they need to have? We need to constantly put children in the center. So having set this context, let's move on to think about our Alpha generation kids. And what I want to do right now is just briefly review with you the 6 characteristics of Alpha children that make them unique. Once again, Alpha generation is those children who have been born since 2010. They are the first generation wholly born within the United States of America. And they're really interesting. There's 9,000 of these children born every day in the United States. I don't know about other places. I know we have a lot of international listeners today. There's 2.5 million of them born every week around the world. And in 2050, when the eldest of this alpha generation is 40 years old, there will be 35 million of them in the United States and 2 billion of them worldwide. That's a lot of people. So we really need to start thinking right now about how we can support them today, but also have an eye on the future and where these children are going, how to think about these children. So here are the 6 characteristics that to me summarize what makes this generation unique. Can we go back for a moment, Ria?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
Oh, just at the opposite arrow. We should be good to go.
Opposite arrow. Yeah.
All good.
So, okay, there you go. Here we go.
There you go.
Okay. So anyway, first of all, our alpha generation kids are living with many more generations. By that, I mean that our alpha children are having an opportunity to live with generations in their families that many of us did not have because of the lifespan being increased. So if you think about in 1900, the worldwide lifespan was about 31 years old, 31 years old. Today, the worldwide lifespan is about 72 years old. And if you're 65 years old in the United States today, you could probably live until you're about 85 years old. So what this means is our children are going to be exposed to a lot more of generations than we ever were, and a lot more perspectives than we were. A second characteristic of this alpha generation is that they live in smaller, constantly evolving families. So while the number of generations living is increasing, the actual number of children in each family is typically decreasing. And the families in which they live are more diverse and complex. In the United States, one-child families are rapidly gaining ground. And people are saying they're having fewer children, largely because it costs so much to raise children. Okay, Ria, we know you're expecting, so we're not going to get into the cost of raising children right now. But, you know, alpha's families are very fluid. Compared to when I grew up as a member of the boomer generation, these children have very fluid families. And the families are fluid because of divorce, separation, cohabitation, death, all kinds of reasons. So a recent study by the US Census found that even within a 3-year period, 30 to 40% of children under the age of 6 had already experienced a change in their family for one of these reasons, like divorce. This is a huge change from the way it used to be. A third thing we know about Generation Alpha is that they are very tech immersed. These children can't even imagine living without technology. Siri is their friend, okay? This is what they're working with all the time. Their engagement with technology is unparalleled, even when compared to their millennial parents who themselves were digital natives. So these children are very comfortable using technology. I recently went to visit someone who had a child who wasn't even 2 years old, who was navigating this iPad in ways beyond belief. So technology is infused in these children's lives almost from birth, and their parents seem to be very, very comfortable with this. Surveys have shown repeatedly that millennial parents are very comfortable connecting their children with innovative technology tools, even to the point of using robot surgeons. So with technology infused in their lives from such a young age and them not knowing how to live without it, this is a huge quality characteristic of the alpha generation that has a lot of implications for us as educators. Another characteristic of the alpha generation is that they are so globally connected. global things are going to impact them to a very deep extent. And if some of you have children who are doing gaming, for example, they may be gaming with a kid on another part of the world who may even be speaking a different language. So technology is opening a lot of these doors for people to have these kinds of relationships with people all over the world. And what we also know is that the alpha generation is going to inherit a world where there's going to be shifts in global power. There's going to be huge demographic shifts. I mean, we already see lopsided things happening in the world. So for example, in the United States, people are having fewer and fewer children. And in the wealthy countries, people are having fewer and fewer children. This is not true everywhere around the world. And there are some futurists who say that we can really anticipate, because of this global connection, a lot of disruption of global economies, political unrest, mass migration. So global issues are going to impact the Generation Alpha to a very strong degree. A fifth thing we need to know about Generation Alpha is that they are incredibly diverse. I mean, diversity is really their signature. That is their signature, and it is also irreversible. Diversity is the new normal, particularly in the United States of America. So in the United States, there's a very clear portrait of what the United States has become. And that portrait is that there's an aging, slow growing and declining white population that is existing in tandem with fast growing, racially diverse youth. Diversity is their signature. So these are historic minorities who are already the majority, not going to be in the future. For their generation, they are already the majority. And what we know is that ethnic blending is going to continue. The share of mixed race children is set to double. We know that children of color in the United States are the fastest growing part of our population, particularly Hispanics and Asians. And a lot of this is fueled with immigration. So diversity is a really important thing that we need to know about raising our children and educating our children. The sixth thing I want to say about the Alpha generation, the sixth characteristic, is that they are very likely to transform adulthood in some very significant ways. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this to you is because we're teaching children today, but we have to have an eye on what their tomorrow might be like. And so I think we might anticipate that they're going to transform adulthood in ways that the world has never witnessed before. So why is that? This is a generation in the United States that's likely to be much, much more highly educated than we've ever seen, but they're going to be differently educated. And when I wrote this book, I wrote it before the pandemic, and the pandemic has only accelerated this trend of online learning and non-traditional certification options. Our children now are starting school earlier, and they can expect to be in some kind of education and training really all of their lives. And that's going to be because of automation and machine learning, artificial intelligence, new ways of demonstrating competency. So this whole idea of how they're going to transform adulthood is really, really significant. So I've gone over the 6 qualities and the unique things for Generation Alpha. So I want to ask you again to take a poll, and Rhea, if you can come back on with the poll. To what extent are you or your program making adaptations that really address these kind of trends? Is our work as educators really changing and adapting for the Alpha generation?
We're seeing about a medium amount. I got a little trigger happy with the poll. So, and a couple more people are answering. My apologies. I was getting all excited.
No worries. No worries. No worries.
But it's a
So
very
you,
interesting perspective to be thinking about as an educator in the classroom about how, you know, even compared to from like my generation to the next generation, thinking about what the differences are. Like you mentioned, like I see my niece and my nephew now with their iPads, with their tablets, and I'm like, I can't keep up. So it's very
yeah.
interesting to see, and the generational perspective in regards to being able to have different generations in a household or be involved with different generations of ages. And it's a very cool piece to see coming up in the generations to come. So
Absolutely. And so when we're working with our children, we need to know that we're working with children who are going to be maturing in an age that is going to be fast moving change and maybe even disorienting change. And so then this brings up all kinds of issues about how we're taking care of their mental health and other kinds of issues. It also brings up the issue that, you know, in the United States, particularly and around the world, there's so many disparities. And we can no longer afford these disparities if we ever could, which I say we never could. But now that these children are the majority, we absolutely cannot if we are going to thrive as a nation. So, educating our children in the classroom and dealing with all of this change is going to require from us a lot of courage, a lot of commitment, and a lot of compassion. And this is really important that in addition to being able to teach reading, for example, that I need to bring courage and commitment and compassion to the classroom. Again, we cannot afford to have these huge achievement gaps based on zip code, based on race, based on language, based on social class. We cannot afford to have that. And if we're going to disrupt those kinds of inequities, it's going to take a lot of courage from us. So one more poll we're going to ask you. As we welcome the Alpha generation, as you're working with these children in the classroom, how courageous are you? How committed are you? How compassionate are you? What do we see there, Ria?
I love these polls, Valora. I love being able to see people's reactions, and I'm seeing high commitment, and I love this. I love educators for me around the world. They show resilience as well as their adaptability is just absolutely phenomenal, and I love every bit about it. So we're seeing quite a bit around like that 8 area.
Yay.
Personally, I'd probably sit around the 7-8 area.
Great.
Love
That's
it.
terrific. Absolutely terrific. We're going to close the poll now.
All right. Thanks, folks.
So, as we're thinking about working with the Alpha generation, we're not operating from a blank slate. We have knowledge and wisdom that we can bring definitely to this situation. Lots of knowledge and wisdom that we can bring to the situation. So, as we think about working with them, there's a lot of things we have to think about. The first thing I want to say as we're thinking about working with children in the classroom is we need to think about who they are and not who we were. And I think this is really important to think about who they are. You know, so perhaps we didn't grow up with a lot of technology, but they are. Perhaps we grew up in a segregated community, but their world is going to be very diverse. And even if our childhoods were absolutely amazing the way that we were, theirs are still different. I can remember myself wanting to hold off my children having cell phones until they were in high school. Well, that's a nonsensical debate now, since so many elementary children already have cell phones. So we bring this idea of adapting to children who they are and not who we were. So lots of things that we can do to support our children. And I just want to name a few that are based on our knowledge of this Alpha generation. So we know for a fact that alpha children will have normalized a wide variety of family structures. So what might we do as educators? We might make a really strong effort to welcome each child and family. Again, you may have personal opinions about all of this family diversity, but our job is to welcome each child and each family. We know that alpha children are going to be dealing in this diverse world, and that issues of equality and openness and transparency and fairness and all of these are going to be a big part of who they are. What can we do? Well, I think we need to embrace them and understand that's who they are and be open and share our lives and be willing to grow ourselves. We know that alpha children are likely to have very diverse educational paths, be in school a lot of their lives. So what can we do? We can let go of this idea that there's a predictable educational pathway or one right way, and really understand and appreciate and embrace multiple pathways for learning. We know that our children are going to have to work a lot in environments when they grow up that's using artificial intelligence and robots. What can we do? We can help them think creatively. We can help them adapt and get the technology skills that they need. We know that alpha children are very likely during points of their lives to have to be their own boss or to be entrepreneurs. So what can we do? We can really help children learn to take initiative, to be entrepreneurial, to have the strong written skills and communication skills that they need, problem solving, and also self-care. I also want to point out some other wisdom that we can bring to this journey with the alpha generation. And that is that we can actively embrace these whole issues of diversity and inclusion with our children. So it's not the point of this webinar, but I'm sure if you do your own homework, you will know that alpha children from their youngest years already know about race. They want to learn more about diversity. They're learning from visual cues. And guess what? They're watching us. They are watching us to see how we handle situations. So we can be very mindful. Also, what we can do is to help each and every child develop a very positive identity and self-confidence and self-awareness and have family pride. And all of these kinds of things is an environment that we can provide for each and every child. But here's one of the most important things that we can do from our wisdom. And that is that we can ensure that our children have intensive relationships with adults and that they have a chance to develop strong social skills. I say this because the more technology comes into their lives, I believe that human skills are going to become more and more prized. That's why we need to make sure our children have good social skills, good collaboration skills, human connections, the kind of soft skills that will make a difference, the kind of soft skills that computers aren't good at, like interpersonal communication or problem solving, creativity. We can really promote these kinds of skills in everything that we do. As we welcome the alpha generation, we have to raise our voices as educators to really spread the word about developmentally appropriate practices that could be in the home and in our community. We have to be sure that people understand that, yes, we are essential, and that's why our opinion really counts. And so we need to be vocal in the public square to let people know what we know. And as we achieve this vision for children, it's really important that we become the architects of change, that we're not just the passive recipients who sit back and whatever people throw at us, we just receive it. We need to be the architects of change in the lives of our children as we're educating our children. And we need to make sure that our children are in an atmosphere of hope, always filled with hope. And I know that in the past 2 years, with so many children being isolated, not having play dates and not being present in schools or other programs, that some people have felt discouraged. But, I'm going to quote what President Roosevelt said in 1940. He said, "We have always held to the hope, to the belief, to the conviction that there is a better life, a better world beyond the horizon." So we have to make sure that our children are infused with hope. And when we do all this as educators, I believe that we can turn this moment of a pandemic and all of the challenges that we face, we can turn that moment into a movement that is really going to more empower our children, the education of children, and ourselves as professionals. And I believe that we can work together in the context of what we know about Alpha children to make sure that there is equity of opportunity for our children and our families. And this is so essential now more than ever. And we can also make sure there is equity of opportunity for our early educators too. And that's salary, compensation, working conditions, and making sure that we really have what we need to provide the best possible foundation for our young children. So we welcome this Alpha generation. We know there are essential things we have to think about as we fill our backpacks with good things that we can offer our children and realize the vision that we have for our children. So I really anticipate that this is going to be a marathon. It's going to be a journey. It is not going to be overnight. It's not going to be an event. It's not going to be a sprint. It's going to be a pathway and a journey that we can all commit to. It's going to be tough work, but I know that as educators, we are up to this challenge. And I invite you to think more about how we can welcome and support the Alpha generation. Thank you. Ria, back to you.
Valora, thank you so much. But before we jump into Q&A, folks, Valora, what is the best way for folks to check out and learn a little bit more about you and about your book?
Well, they can go to our website, which is at the CAYL Institute, www.caylcayl.org. My email address is shown on the screen, so they can email us. They can look at our website and get some of our resources. At the CAYL Institute, we're very much like Hi Mama, which is one reason why we've been great partners, in that we believe in providing free resources to people and supporting people in this way. If they want to know more about the Alpha generation, as you know, there is a book. You can get it on Amazon and really delve a little bit deeper into the 6 characteristics that I mentioned.
I love it. I love every bit of it. This has been awesome. Let's jump in, folks, for some Q&A. If you have a question for Valora, and Valora, please do take a moment, have a sip of water. Packed session there, no worries. Please do let us know a couple of questions. I know we've already gotten a few more, but as well, we have one last little poll for you too. So I'm just going to pop up our question of the day. We always do this, folks. Would love to know a little bit more about at your center. Do you use technology? It's just we're curious to know about how you guys use technology within your locations, within your classrooms. Would love to know. So take some time, answer that guy up, and let's jump into Q&A. Valora, let's start off with my first question for you is, you of course have seen this. COVID has been a really large impact of what's changed, what's happened within the classrooms across the world. What is the largest barrier, especially with the Alpha generation, that educators are potentially facing or that you've seen them face over the last 2 years or so?
So I think there's two. And one that I mentioned
Mhm.
is this idea that we really need to support children's human skills, social skills,
Yeah.
and really making sure that they are being able to have strong relationships. I think that's the one thing that is really, really important. One of the things that people are writing about now in the press is how post COVID, there's a lot of incivility and a lot of people not knowing how to interact with people. And so I think helping our children to develop those soft skills is really, really important because soft skills really matter a lot. And the second thing that I think is really important and that COVID really highlighted is just such huge levels and unacceptable levels of inequity among our
Mm.
children. And we have really got to close the gap between what some children have and what other children don't have. We can no longer afford these huge inequities. So those are the two things that come to mind.
I agree. I think that even pre-pandemic, it was starting the conversation, but with it, it's definitely shown us that where the gaps are really large, and we do need to close those gaps. They're huge, and it's not good. It's a piece that's just really setting some children up for success and some children up for failure, and not intentionally as well. I wanted to jump into, actually, we're talking a little bit more about diversity in the alpha generation and us having like a larger impact on that. Have you seen, or do you feel like changes in the air when it comes to this? Or do you think that we still have quite a ways to go when it comes to seeing diversity included more within the classroom, just across the board, actually, even?
So, one of the things I would like to say to everyone on this call, no matter what setting you are, say that you live in an all Black community or an all white community or an all Asian community or an all Latino community, let's think about who our children are. They're going to grow up in a world of tremendous diversity. So it is really important that we help our children while they're young understand and develop the skills they need to interact with people who are not like them. And so that is really essential. It's an
Mm.
essential skill for our children to be able to function in the adult world that they definitely will inhabit. Now, here's what I would say. Demography isn't destiny, but it sure is going to have a big impact on your life.
It's so true. So true. I wanted to tag on to this. Of course, we're looking at diversity. Any tips around, children who have, I like to say superpowers, but any children who have, disabilities of a variety of kind? Do you feel like this is something that we've been more adaptable with this generation and that we see changing? Or do we find that we're still a little stuck with this guy?
Well, and again, I've seen so much progress. I mean, being in a
Mm.
boomer generation, I mean, we took those children and put them in institutions or kept them at home and not tried to educate them at all. So tremendous progress that has been made, but we still have a lot of ways to go. I like to
Yeah.
think about what children can do and how we can build and support on what they can do and what we can support them in learning to do. Because I think that we have no idea still of what children with so-called disabilities are truly capable of.
I agree. I feel like there isn't enough looked at into what they can do. It's more of what they can't. We know more about that than we do know than they can. So that's a huge point. Valora, one last question, and I'm sure you've talked or heard about this question before. It might be your hard question for today. I promise no hard questions, but I'm going to do it anyways. Um, Technology in the classroom, we know is a good thing. We know, like you've said, this generation, like them coming up, they're so much better at it than even my generation. Is there a way around right now is the abuses of technology? So protecting children from maybe getting too far into it, like you said, keeping those social pieces. Any tips around this piece for you?
So you really want me to be controversial right here at the end.
Oh, of course. Why not?
This is a difficult conversation that I'm sure Hi Mama has big seminars on to really think about how to use technology effectively and appropriately with young children. And we also have guidance from in the United States, our national organizations, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, the National Academy of Pediatrics that are giving a lot of guidance. I would say in my personal experience, many families and many teachers aren't necessarily following that guidance. Just as I said, visiting someone who their under 2-year-old is really spending a lot of time with technology. So, in some ways, this is a huge experiment that we're doing with our children. It's a huge experiment, and we have a lot to learn.
I agree. It's still a space that we don't know enough about. Very similar to what you were saying before. We don't know enough about this, and we have a lot to come. And yeah, it's I think a lot of it is around being able to just digest it and use it appropriately while maintaining those social pieces, while maintaining those, all like you said, those soft skills, and just really getting children back into their regular routine. Valora, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Listening to you today, I think I'm going to have to take it, and then I'm going to have to watch it again and think about it a little bit more, because there's so many key things that you mentioned. I wanted to give you one last moment. Is there any last pieces of advice, words of wisdom, anything you'd like to leave the crew with today?
Yeah, I just like to say, we're so capable of dealing with this. We really are strong. We're a very strong, undervalued, under-resourced, but strong and wise profession. So I feel confident in our educators of young children, and I know that we can truly make a huge difference.
Valora, thank you so much.
Right.
And from the CAYL Institute for being here. It's been like I said, such a pleasure to be a part of this today and have the folks here. We're going to jump up into wrap up, folks. Let's do so. Next week, Miss Maddie, please do join us, because we're bringing Maddie on next week. We're going to be talking. If you missed it I was going to say June, it's July, you were with us. You were talking about honoring children's rights in the classroom. Maybe give us like a teeny tiny sneak peek of what you're going to be talking about next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone was on the last webinar, we spoke about children's rights from a pretty broad lens. So this time we're going to dive into the emotional side of children's rights and how we can honor children's emotions and try and sit with children's emotions and let them experience and process those emotions in the classroom.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be fantastic. Please note, folks, next week is American Thanksgiving. So we have decided to move our webinar to Tuesday. So it's on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We already have got invites, I think just went out while we were chatting here with Valora today. So please note there is no session next Thursday, November 25th. We will not be here. We're just making sure to accommodate for everybody's holidays and things like that. So I'll get Kaya to drop the link in there for us as well, folks. If you haven't, please do. We want to hear your voice. Please do take some time to fill out our survey. Kaya will post the link in there for us as well. But we want to make sure that we hear your voice for our 6th annual benchmark report. If you haven't seen this, we have all of our previous benchmarks on our website. We would love for your voice to be heard in this next coming edition. So please do take some time to do that. Last but not least, and I know Ms. Kaya's been actively working with this. If you would like to receive free weekly activities right to your inbox, please do. And Kaya's going to put the link shortly here in the chat. Please do sign up. We would love for you to be getting the Activities Corner weekly activities, like I said, right to your inbox. And you also get a free lesson plan as part of a gift for signing up. So please, we'd love for you to be doing so. Folks, I clicked on the link. See, it even took me there. I was all excited. There we go. Thank you so much for taking some time to spend with us today, for welcoming Maddie on. And as well, folks, we're not ending webinars by any means. Maddie's going to be taking in my role and stepping up. So thank you once again to the CAYL Institute for taking the time to be here with us today, for you to take the time to be here today. I hope everyone stays healthy, stays happy, and stays safe. Miss Kaya, before I wrap up, did I miss anything?
You got it all. I'm so happy the big secret is out. We're so excited for you, Rhea. It has been an amazing nearly 2 years together on the Hi Mama Helps webinar. We are so excited to have Maddie with us. I love working with Maddie. She is phenomenal. So you guys are in good hands, trust me.
Yep.
And Rhea, we can't wait to have you back. I know your Hi Mama family is going to miss you, and we're so excited for you.
Very excited. Maybe I'll make a guest appearance at some point. So, but we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Don't forget, we're not here next Thursday. We're here next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Sign up, please. We'd love to see you, and take care and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.